Now, in the world of musical education, of course, we have school teaching, we have formal education, we have books, we have all of that sort of thing. But what's very important to understand is that every single person on planet Earth who owns an iPhone or an iPad, or indeed a desktop Mac, has full access to a free and very good musical program. Now, I've got an iPhone SE here, which has got GarageBand on it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it in terms of utterly no musical knowledge whatsoever, because actually anybody can get into this. Now, you think about the number of people who make videos, maybe they're mountain biking and they got the GoPro, or you've got kids running around a garden, you want to record, your young children to play back to them in years to come, and you're looking for a piece of music and you find a sort of generic thing. Oh, that's all right. But the thing is, all of these generic tracks are available to all, whereas GarageBand, you can create your own things. Why not? And actually, it doesn't take a huge amount to get started, and you don't need musical knowledge. That's the beauty of this GarageBand. Now, it also, at the same time, will actually teach you quite a lot about music. It's highly educational and fun at the same time, and the sounds are also extremely good. Now, on the other phone here, you can see my phone with all the apps and everything, and you get the guitar app, which is, people will go, oh, what's this GarageBand thing? And when they open it up, and usually you'd find a page like this where you think strings, bass, guitar. You think, well, how do you get started with this? What's it all about? What happens if I tap on one of these things and you play a sound and you think, oh, how do I put this together? Well, in the world of rock and pop music, we have drums, bass, guitar, keyboards, vocals. Those are the main things that we have. And of course, there are other things on here like strings and world instruments and different types of guitars. But if we work on the assumption that a song has drums, bass, guitars and keyboards, let's start with that. Now, when you're putting a piece of music together, you have to think about the tempo, how fast that piece of music is. Does it go or does it go? Now, every single sort of rock and pop single, every single piece of rock and pop music has a pulse. The pulse, that's the primeval thing. That's like breathing in and out, walking down the road, left, right, left, right, left, right. It's endemic. It's built into each and every one of us. However, it's the same with music. If we go to the drummer, for example, let's do that first, because this drummer requires no input from the user other than just a couple of buttons to decide the speed and the complexity. How clever is that? So if we go to Acoustic Drummer, it opens up a page where if you press play, immediately there's a drum rhythm. All you've had to do is press play. That's it. Now, we have various other controls here, that most notably the Joystick Control on the left-hand side of the screen, which allows you to set how loud those drums are and how complicated or simple or quiet. So it's a four-way thing. So if I, for example, drag the joystick down to the bottom left, we get a much simpler drum rhythm. And over the other side, it's louder and there's more going on. So you just drag the joystick to wherever you like. Let's try right in the middle. Brilliant. I'm not even going to go into the other bits of this because actually you have something usable with minimal input. Now, if I go back to the main page now, I've got my drums. I'm going to add a bass. Now, the drums and the bass are what's known as the rhythm section. They underpin that tune. So everyone in a rock band would be playing essentially for the vocal part, the top line, the melodic line. That's the important bit. That's the bit that people remember. But it still has to be a good supporting role. So if I go to bass now, there are all sorts of ways of putting this in. But I'm going to go for something called smart bass, because all you get is a row of letters here. Now, you don't need to be musical to understand what these letters mean, because actually you can just go just have a go at just tapping a few things and it plays all the notes for you. You can even, and this is where it really comes into its own, have an autoplay function where all of those strings disappear now. The tempo matches exactly the tempo of those drums. So if I press record, I'm going to play a chord of C, F and G. Now, I've just made a chord sequence up. I'm fairly sure I remember what I did, but you might need a notepad, a bit of paper and a pen. How quaint. Just to note down your chord symbols, your chord chart. There is a notes application on here where you can tap stuff out, but sometimes when you're in the thick of it, just a pen and paper or a post-it note may help. So, there's my bass line. All I've had to do is tap the chords that I want in time with where the drums are. So if I go now to a guitar, let's have a look. Guitar, smart guitar. I haven't had to know anything about guitar or bass at all. It just does it all for you. Now, on guitar, you can strum a chord by simply going and then accidentally dragging up the control center as well. You can either do that, or we can go to the autoplay function again. Great. Now, don't worry about the fact that this is generic and it may be the same as millions of other people. The chord sequence could be something slightly different. You could put effects on, you can make anything sound different and individual, yet again with no musical input at all. And I haven't discussed anything about music theory at all because actually there's not really any need at the moment. You can get all of that as you progress. So if I go back to the start and press record, okay, so I actually stopped it slightly early there. You can see there's a little space, but the principles of this are that you can just put anything down that you want. So I'm going to go to the piano now, smart piano. You can play chords. The grey bits is your left hand, which play the lower notes, or indeed I can go to autoplay again. Maybe I'll find something a bit more complicated. Okay, record that. How grand sounding. Now, we've got that. We've got our drums, our bass, a guitar and a keyboard. We've got our four main components. This is where you can swipe up and click plus and then record your lyrics over the top using the audio recorder. I'm not going to go into that because I think just getting a backing track down and learning just how to get something sounding good is really the name of this game.